What is up, guys? We have got a special episode for you guys. We're going to be previewing these first college football playoff games and some big NFL divisional games as well. And of course, we're going to preview these games with some betting picks like we always do here on YouTube. But we're excited to be joined by Kevin Pryor. He is a sports journalist and the co-producer and radio host of the 950 Lounge Show and the host of the DSN Sports Weekly. Kev, thanks for being a guest on the show.
Thanks so much, guys. Happy holidays to you and yours. And again, I'm excited for football this weekend. It's a football cornucopia, to say the least. So I'm excited about it.
Man, it absolutely is. What a fun weekend we've got here. The college football playoff, of course, starts this weekend. NFL Week 16 games. We got some big games to preview here. It's going to be fun to jump into this. Let's start with the college football playoff, though.
Mm-hmm.
The 12-team expanded playoff obviously starts this year, and we've got some great first-round matchups. And I think we're on some different sides here. A little pre-production meeting we had. It looks like we've got some opposite picks on some of these games. So this is going to be fun to jump into. Let's start with Indiana and Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go with you, Kevin, since you're the guest here. Let's just jump right into this. Who's your pick in this game and why?
Well, I'm going with the Irish, really for no rhyme or reason. I just think that obviously that team has gotten better after the disaster against Northern Illinois way back in September. I think Marcus Freeman's got this team running well. The last game they played against USC, they were in, the defense was frosty and what have you, and they were making moves. The cold weather won't matter because they're both two Indiana teams. It's the first matchup since I think 1980, so they don't play each other much. But I think the Hoosiers have had a great year. Kirk Stinetti, Google me, I win games, and what's his name? O'Rourke, the quarterback. They've had a great season, but I think their fairy tale comes to an end. Even though I think they can match up blow to blow with Notre Dame because they can move the ball and throw. Their offensive coordinator, their quarterback coach, Sinceri, he already left for USC. He was a major component to how that offense moved. I think it'll show, even though Notre Dame and Riley Leonard really can't throw the ball, they'll run it well. They'll play great defense. It won't be a pretty game, but the Irish will prevail.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Indiana to upset Notre Dame. I've been picking against Notre Dame. I think I picked Army to kind of knock off Notre Dame at the end of the season, but I'm going to stick with Indiana. I did not watch a lot, which is why I wasn't aware that their OC left for, or rather, quarterback's coach left for USC. But I'm still going to stick with Indiana. I think the magic carpet ride lasts another week.
Yeah, I've been impressed with Indiana, no doubt about it. I think this coach, Google me, I win games, by the way. That was one of the coolest press conference quotes I think I've ever heard. And the way he said it, too, with so much confidence. This guy has come in and absolutely flipped the script for this program. Immediately has them in this position when nobody to start the year thought Indiana would be here. So I got to give a ton of credit to him, this program, and what he's been able to do in year one. With all that being said, I still think they're a year or two away. I think he clearly has them moving in the right direction. I just don't know if they have the horses to hang with this Notre Dame squad. Notre Dame has a top 3 scoring defense. They're legit. They can stop teams. Now, Indiana, on the other side, has a top 3 scoring offense. So This is an interesting battle here. Notre Dame also has a top 10 rushing attack, while Indiana has the best rushing defense in the country. So something has to give in this game here, but I'm going to lean with the Irish defense here. I think they can slow down this Indiana attack. I think Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love, I think he has to be a big factor in this game. If they're going to win this game, they've got to control the line of scrimmage, and he has to run the ball. I think quarterback Riley Leonard, who, might not be the most polished passer, but he is a guy who can get away from pressure and make plays when the pocket breaks down. So I think it's really important for Indiana to be able to contain him and keep him in the pocket if they want to win this game. I think Notre Dame wins, but I like Indiana to cover the 7-point spread here. I think this is a close game. I think this is going to be a really fun matchup.
Yeah, and again, obviously Signetti, he comes from the, he coached, he was on Saban's first staff at Alabama. So, again, he has that type of bravado and that moxie. I do believe that Notre Dame, based off that big line and running the football, I think they will control the game. And I think what they have in their favor now is that when they start the season, because Leonard was such a decent passer at Duke, they understand who they are. They know their identity. They won't try to force the ball. It's going to be probably like in the teens in South Bend Friday night. So it'll be a physical throwback, smash mouth football game. I think that's advantage Notre Dame.
All right, let's jump to SMU, Penn State. Kevin, once again here, I'll start with you. Who's your pick in this game, and why do you like him?
Well, before I give the pick, again, James Franklin is the Ryan Day of the North. Again, they win the games they're supposed to win. They beat the teams they're supposed to beat, but I'm hearing the people I respect in the game, like the Joe Klatz, are saying, well, Penn State competed with Ohio State and they competed with Oregon. No, a loss is a loss. And I think, again, we don't hear the same pressure we do with Ryan Day. I'm a big fan of Rhett Lashlee and what he's done with that SMU program, first year in the ACC. People felt that they didn't have the beef and the staff to kind of compete with the big boys, but they've done a great job. They've obviously benefited from a kind of mild schedule. Kevin Jennings, to me, is the truth. He does turn the ball over a lot. He had a couple of turnovers, but when the lights are bright is when he had to make that comeback against Clemson. He did his thing, and it took a 56-yard field goal to beat him. This is not a popular opinion, and it's probably not even a rational opinion. Penn State and Abdul Carter and that D-line is frosty. They get to the quarterback. If was any team in the playoff that plays well at home or feeds off their crowd, is Penn State. That is an incredible environment in Happy Valley. But you know what? I'm rolling with the ponies. I like Jennings. I like their running game. I think again they're playing with house money. I think they benefited from it being a day game. Now it's supposed to snow Friday night in Happy Valley. It's going to be in the 20s, but it's going to be sunny. I think that's going to help them out a little bit. And let's face it, even though Penn State is home and they're used to the cold, maybe going to classes, they don't play in this type of weather. So this is uncharted territory for everybody. So with the upset and that high noon, that's the early game, the upset of the playoffs, the SMU Mustangs win. And I want to hear what good old James is going to say at his press conference, because I think SMU is going to win the game.
Alex, who do you got here?
I'm gonna go with the popular opinion here. I'm gonna actually stick with Penn State, despite Kevin trying to kill them. But he's right. He's absolutely right. But I'm gonna stick with Penn State. I think Drew Allar wants to make a statement here. I know he's coming back, but where he's headed and where possibly looking at a fringe first round pick next year, I think he wants to make a statement this year, even going into his next year. But I'm gonna take Penn State. I like how they're set up, and contrary to the point, I actually do like James Franklin, even though he kind of fights with fans sometimes. But I do like James Franklin here in this spot to get to the next round.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't. Before you go, I didn't like. Again, I don't hate James Franklin, but like he's making comments about his backup quarterback. Backup quarterback had to go in the portal. The kid explained the situation, but all on the same thing. They just had Bear Alexander from USC on the campus, so you can't complain about stuff that you're partaking in. It's just like what Dion said the other day. It's like some of these coaches feel like this is not supposed to happen to them. I mean, welcome to college football 2024 and 2025.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a valid point. It's absolutely a valid point. And I was going to say, to your point, James Franklin wins all the games he's supposed to, and he doesn't ever win the big ones. And that's really been the knock on this guy. Well, here they are, a big favorite in a game that they quote unquote are supposed to win, and I think they will. I'm going to go chalk here, and look, SMU's been a great story. I think they have a good coach and a program that, like I said about Indiana, clearly moving in the right direction here. But you mentioned it, Beaver Stadium. It's going to be a whiteout. It's going to be cold. The only real tests for SMU this year that they faced were against BYU and Clemson, and they lost both those games. Mm-hmm. This team kind of got, look, I hate to use the word lucky because you can only play who's on your schedule, but they magically kind of avoided all the good schools, right? They didn't play Miami. They didn't play Clemson in the regular season. They didn't play Syracuse or Georgia Tech. Those teams I just mentioned went 23-9 in the ACC. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, they really kind of skated by on a soft schedule. Penn State, on the other hand, look, they lost to Ohio State, they lost to Oregon. We know how good those teams are, but they pushed number 1 Oregon to the brink. And that was a close game against, arguably the best team in the country here. Big time programs. I just don't think SMU is ready for this yet. They don't have the horses, pun intended here, to hang with Penn State. And when I look at Penn State, the running backs, Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen, I mean, you've got 2 future NFL running backs, and of course, the tight end / center / quarterback / running back / do everything. Tyler Warren, I mean, this guy is just a Swiss Army knife mismatch. I don't think they have anybody to slow him down. I mean, look, Oregon's got how many NFL guys on that defense, and they had no answers for this guy.
Yeah, they can't stop the run.
Right. On paper, it makes no logical sense, right? And again, I'm not a gambling man anymore, so I'm not losing no money. But the reality is that Penn State is one of these teams. I know we will be talking about another team that doesn't deal with the lights very well either. But Penn State is a team that just when it matters most, they just don't seem to get it done. What's going to happen if this game is close in the fourth quarter? Okay, you got the whiteout. You got people saying they should wipe the deck with SMU. They don't need to be on in the same field with them. What's going to happen? The game gets tighter. And again, like I said, I Alex, you mentioned Drew Allen. I'm not a super fan of Drew. I think Drew needs some more paprika. He needs some more seasoning. And I just think that obviously you got an SMU team that can come in here and play loose. They're not supposed to even listen. They barely beat out Bama for that last spot. My theory is that they play loose, and I think again, if the game is close in the fourth quarter, the pressure will be all on Penn State.
It's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. And you're absolutely right. If they find a way to hang around in this game, then I'm with you, because James Franklin in this program does tend to get tight in big spots. And to your point, SMU playing with house money, that's going to be fun to watch if it comes down to it. Now, Penn State's an 8.5-point favorite, one of the bigger spreads here in the playoff. I'm going to say they roll in this one and cover, but I hope I'm wrong, because I think it would be fun to watch a close game like you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move to Clemson, Texas. This is a fascinating matchup here. Kevin, once again, I'll start with you. Who's your pick, and why do you like that team?
This is the game of the first round for me. We've all buried Dabo through sand and dirt on him and say he's still living in Mayberry, and he's not, up on the times. He doesn't go after transfer portal kids and the whole bit. They found a way throughout the season to get it themselves together. Obviously, we know South Carolina took care of business. Lenore Sellers, a Heisman Trophy candidate 2025, but certainly Dabo and his boys found a way to almost give the game away against SMU, but they found a way to win the game. They go to Texas. The 2 Texas high school legends play each other, Cade Klubnik, Quinn Ewers. The question will be, will Sarkisian have a hook if Ewers is not playing well? I think you're going to have to go to Manning. It seems that offense moves much better with Manning than it does with Ewers. And it was funny because Ewers was a top 5 quarterback option in the beginning of the season. I think, again, Texas has the beef up front, but something about Clemson, Peter Woods and these boys, that defense, Cade Klubnik, they find a way. And it sounds hokey, and Dabo with all his gosh golly, comments and mannerisms, it seems to work for them. And I would not be surprised if Clemson pull off an upset, but I'm going with the Longhorns here. I think Texas will dominate. They'll find a way. I think Quinn Ewers will find a way to get it together. I think this is another day of reckoning for him, a big stage, kind of, wash away the ills of the regular season. And I think Texas rolls in this one.
Well, Kev, you've been preaching to the choir right there, because I've been saying for how many weeks, Brad, that the only way Texas wins the national championship is if Quinn Ewers gets pulled and they put in Arch Manning. I've been saying it. He's mobile, and he'll be a little bit more agile to do some things that Quinn Ewers can't do. But I'm with you, Kev. I think Texas wipes the floor with them. And Dabo, not going into the transfer portal with that Bill Belichick guy down the road for me, you better start making some changes real fast and real quick, because it's going to be different.
Yeah, Cocky's getting their thing together.
Yeah, when I look at this game, it's interesting because we think Steve Sarkisian, we think offense. And he's a guy that's been known for that. He's been a great play caller at multiple stops, whether it was the NFL or college football. But this Texas team is led by the defense, and this defense is for real. They rank 3rd nationally in total defense, 2nd in scoring. They only give up 12.5 points per game. This defense might be the best in this entire playoff. They're also tied with Notre Dame for the most takeaways in college football. Look, Texas has struggled to put games away, which scares me a little bit because as talented as they are, they let teams hang around. And a lot of the times it's because of penalties, turnovers, or they have some struggles in the red zone. All of a sudden you look up and they're like, wait, how are they not blowing this team out here? On paper, they should be. And that's why this game makes me a little nervous from that standpoint, because it feels like this could be a game where Clemson finds a way to hang around. But the Tigers, when I look at them, that offense has improved, kind of slowly improved throughout the season quietly. But I still don't think they have enough to move the ball consistently against this Texas defense. Texas is a 12-point favorite, huge number here. It's the biggest number here in this college football playoff in the first round. I don't believe in Clemson. I think the game has kind of slipped through Dabo's fingers. I think it's moving away from him. I think some of the things you mentioned about the transfer portal and some of the things that he refuses to kind of get with the times here, and I think the program has slowly slipped from those national title days that we remember. Quite frankly, I don't think they belong in this college football playoff. I think they snuck in the back door after winning a bad ACC. I think Texas rolls. I think they cover, and I think they flex in this game and show everybody why they are a legit national championship contender. All right, we saved what I think was maybe the best game for last year. We've got a big-time SEC Big Ten matchup here, Tennessee, Ohio State. Kevin, once again, I'll start with you. Who's your pick and why?
Wow, this one here, I almost think Ohio State would have been better playing this game at Rocky Top. The fans at Ohio State, the first 3 and out, they'll be booing. I think, and we all know from how we all connected, we have friends that are big Ohio State fans. And I just think that obviously, maybe I don't understand it, but they need to flush Michigan out. You'll see Michigan in November 2025. I think, again, you got the playoffs here and anything, right? Redemption normally takes time to get. Right? Whoa, and I see that person again, I'm gonna knock them out. Redemption comes quick for the Buckeyes. Again, they have all the talent in the world, $20 million payroll, NIL money, Will Howard and, Jenkins and all these guys, the big time wide receivers, all these players. But again, will they be a tight team? Will Ryan Day realize that, hey, if I lose round 1 after losing to Michigan, maybe that call to Mike Brable will happen Sunday morning. But again, they're also a team that could make a run, and we would not be surprised because the talent is there. Tennessee, on the other hand, Nico, the quarterback, don't get me to pronouncing his last name because I'll butcher it. He came out the gate smoking, but he seems to have gradually he hasn't been spectacular. This game here can get really weird. Cold night, Columbus, Ohio, Saturday night game. I'm going to go with Ohio State. But I'm not comfortable with it because Ohio State, a lot like Penn State, again, the twin brothers of Day and Franklin. When the games are tight, you get the worst out of them. Unlike a Georgia, when the game is on the line, they come out to play. It seems like with Ohio State, when the game's tight. So if Tennessee can keep the game close, it could be interesting. But I'm going to go with the Buckeyes to win this game, maybe by like a field goal. I don't see them running away with it, but I think they do survive and get to redemption with Oregon.
Well, I'm going to be short and sweet. I'm rooting for chaos here. I want Tennessee to win. I want Ohio State fans to go crazy. I want them to go crazy on Ryan Day. I want them to go crazy on Chip Kelly. I'm rooting for complete. This is similar to how I talk about when I look at March Madness. I root for chaos. Even though I know Ohio State's the better team, I want Tennessee to knock them off, and I want to see all the Ohio State fans and players go crazy. So give me Tennessee and the points.
Yeah, the points, I think you have something there. It's 7.5 points here. And when we're talking about betting, anytime you get over that key number of 7, there's some value there. So I'm with you. I think that's where my bet would probably go. But if I'm taking the winner here, I've got to go Ohio State because, look, it's going to be below freezing in Columbus. This team from the South is going to come up there. It's going to be frigid. Ohio State, I think, to your point, Kevin, they've got something to prove here after that bad loss to Michigan. I think they know how big this is. They need to make a run. They know that their coach is on the hot seat. This program, so to speak, is on the hot seat because, look, the expectations were sky high. It was national championship or bust for this team. And there's very few programs in the country that come in with those kind of expectations. But those expectations are there for a reason because you hit on it. Big time wide receivers. I mean, we got first round talent wide receivers, Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Ibuka. They have experience at quarterback with Will Howard. He's not a superstar, but he's a solid quarterback that knows how to play this game. They have an offensive line that has depth, a loaded running back room, a defense littered with NFL talent. Look, there's just not a whole lot of spots I can look at. And this isn't any shot at Tennessee. I think they're a very quality team. I like what Josh Heupel's done there. He really has rebuilt this program that had been down for really since Peyton Manning was back there in Orange. But when I look at the matchups and I really start focusing in on this, unless Ryan Day just totally collapses, which we know he's capable of, on paper, there's no reason this Buckeyes team shouldn't win this game.
And again, like I know, listen, I'm wearing a Ducks hat, but I do have love for Rocky Top. I had a cup of coffee there, but I'm just calling like I see it. I think Ohio State, they have to realize that, they got to jump on this team quick. But again, very similar to the Penn State game. If it's close in the fourth quarter, beware.
Hey, Brad, before we move on, and feel free to cut one of those NFL games if we need to. It would behoove me if we don't ask Kev really quick. Did you have an issue with Travis Hunter winning the Heisman?
No, I think he was the best player in college football. I think in most seasons, asking Janty what he did is phenomenal. I don't care what level. When you're the main guy and there's 9 in the box and you're still running for 200 yards, I don't care what league you play in. That's special. I just think that he came in a season that was a comet, and this is the comet. You can ask Peyton Manning that question about Charles Woodson many years ago. Yeah. When it's a comet, and what Travis is doing is even superseding what Woodson did. So I think it was the right player, right person, right player. No question about it. Travis Hunter deserved to be the Heisman Trophy winner.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you, Kevin. Obviously, you guys out there, PGF Nation, you guys that check out the audio podcast and watch some of the exclusive stuff. I've been talking about Travis Hunter really going back to last offseason. All throughout the season, I've been mentioning how special this guy is. I even said on the audio podcast this week, he might be the best college football player I've ever seen. And I don't say that as being a prisoner of the moment. We've just never seen anything like this. In the modern era, we've never seen anything like this guy to be literally one of the best wide receivers in college football and one of the best cornerbacks in college football, basically a full-time starter on both sides in a Power 4 conference. It's just unheard of. We've never seen anything like this guy. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think he deserved it. I'm glad he won it. I'm glad he got the recognition for it. And that's nothing against Ginty. No. He's a great player. He's a great player. But this season was something we probably won't see again for a very, very long time, and he deserves that recognition. So I'm glad you asked, Kevin, that because, that's been something, like I said, on our recent episode, we kind of dove into that topic, and it still has a lot of buzz even lingering into the college football playoff here. The last point I was going to make about this game with Ohio State and Tennessee before we shift gears and go to the NFL was that Volunteers defense, I think, has to be dominant up front if they're going to have a chance to pull the upset here, because they rank in the top 10 nationally in tackles for a loss. That D line is going to have to take over this game if they're going to win this game. And they're capable of doing that. Right. So that's a matchup I'm circling here. If they can get pressure, if they can shut down that Ohio State run game, if they can put pressure on Will Howard, this could get really, really interesting. But with that being said, I'm going with the chalky pick here. I'm going with Ohio State. Now, we've got 3 big divisional NFL games that we're going to jump into here. Getting late in the year, and these divisional games mean so much for these teams right now. So let's start with the Thursday night football matchup. We've got Broncos, Chargers. Kevin, once again, I'll start with you. Who do you like in this matchup and why?
The Thursday night game?
Yeah, we've got Broncos, Chargers on Thursday.
Yeah, Broncos, Chargers, right. Well, listen, I think right now Sean Payton's the coach of the year. I mean, listen, I wasn't really sold on Bo Nix. I thought Bo was a decent quarterback in college and really maybe, squeeze all his lemon, but I think he's showing something and that team believes in him. I think Denver is they're not I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender, but I think they're a scary enough team to get into the playoffs and win a game. I think this one here on Thursday night is another, so it's a division game. They're in a playoff hunt, and I think Denver wins that game. I think the game is in LA though, right?
It is.
Yes.
Right. But I still like Denver. Obviously, I think Harbaugh's done a great job as well. I think he's got everything he's got out of it. But I think Denver and what they're doing just on a crash course, they're finding ways to win, like how they won last week with all the hokey players against the Colts. I think that's a sign of a good team. It's not luck. You're creating your own luck. And I think they will continue to do that. I like the Broncos Thursday night.
Yeah, I like the Broncos, and PGF Nation knows I'll never say that Sean Payton's coach of the year. Actually, Kev does too. But I'm definitely taking the Broncos simply because some of the things that we talk about on the audio pod, Brad, the Chargers have built their team around a strong offensive line and a running game. And J.K. Dobbins is now out, and Gus Edwards has been hurt for pretty much half the season, so he's not really in football shape. And then there's Kamani Vidal, I believe, is the rookie that they drafted. He hasn't flashed as of yet. So I'm going to take the Broncos simply for that reason. But I still think at some point, Brad, we'll probably have to talk about both of those teams still making the playoffs. And so just by the way the AFC is set up, I still think they both make the playoffs.
Yeah, this is a fun matchup because, like we said, AFC West, this division's good. I mean, they've got some serious talent in this division. I think both these teams heading in the right direction here. And to your point, Kevin, Alex and I, obviously, we do a ton of NFL draft coverage on this show in April. We really go a deep dive into all these prospects, and neither one of us were super high on Bo Nix. We liked him. We didn't love him. The one thing I did say consistently, though, was I did mock him going to Denver, and I thought that would be the perfect landing spot because I think he was a really ideal fit for a Sean Payton offense, and it's clearly clicking right now. Mm-hmm. And he's a guy that has a legit shot at Rookie of the Year, and I never would have thought that coming into the year.
Yeah.
But looking at this game, kind of focusing in on this one, from the betting aspect, because I always have to follow the money here, the pro money is coming in on the Broncos. You've got Herbert dealing with that ankle injury. He got banged up in the second half last week. He's been a little hobbled. I think that hurts, especially on a short week where you don't have the extra rest here. Chargers, look, like you said, a lot of injuries right now. It's kind of at the worst time for this game. And you mentioned it being in L.A., Kevin, but look, they don't have a home field advantage in L.A.
No.
Not when the Broncos come to town. That place is going to be orange and blue. There's no doubt about it. They're going to take over SoFi Stadium. So I like the Broncos +3 here. Herbert's going to have to go to a silent count at home, which is something he's used to, unfortunately. And I think this LA team with just too many key injuries for this matchup, Broncos +3, I think there's a ton of betting value there because they could absolutely win this game outright.
Yeah, that's good eating right there.
Yeah. Now, we've got an AFC North battle. This is probably, in my opinion, the best rivalry in all of the NFL. It has been really going back a couple decades now, and it continues to be a must-watch game. Ravens, Steelers. Kevin, who do you like in this matchup and why?
This is Ohio State, Michigan, the NFL. This is the old Bears Packers trilogy. This is something that's going to be special. Again, I mean, this is on Saturday. It's going to be interesting to see how these ratings go, right? But I think, again, when it comes to Packers, Ravens, anything can happen. Throw out what you think. I do believe that Baltimore is getting their stride. I mean, I like what Pittsburgh does. They know their identity. They know how to, they run the ball. They've been mixing in Fields a lot more and on design stuff. Obviously TJ to me is one of the best in the game, but I think Baltimore is starting to get their stride. And I felt this way all year. I know Pittsburgh jumped out to they were a surprise and they've already clinched the playoff spot early, but Baltimore was just like that tortoise in the hare, right? They weren't going nowhere. They weren't beating them, but they were right there. And I think right now is when we start to see the switch in these last 3 games. This obviously is for first place. I like the Ravens at home to take care of business against the Steelers.
Yeah, I'm going to like the Ravens. As we were talking, I went and looked up just to kind of see where TJ Watt was. We know he had that ankle injury.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't practice all week, but I don't think a guy like that needs practice. He did return limited today.
He'll play.
He'll play. But I think the real key is George Pickens being out. They don't have a guy for a secondary and a Ravens secondary defense that's hovering around 29th or 30th. Against the pass, and that's something that's key there. I mean, I think if you want to tell me that TJ Watt can do TJ Watt like things, and maybe you can go do some 12 personnel and maybe perhaps play some bully ball, because that Ravens defense is not the Ravens defense that we have known since they've entered the league. They're a little bit soft this year.
True,
but So I think if you go to a little bit of a 12 personnel with Donnell Washington and Freiermuth, and let's see what you can do. If you can play a little bit of bully ball, perhaps you can limit them on offense. And then maybe TJ Watt, like I said, can do some TJ Watt type things. But nonetheless, 6 is for a game like this, Brad, and I know you're probably going to talk about it, but 6 points that Baltimore's given up for a game like this historically is a huge, huge number here. I'm going to take Baltimore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really big number, and I've actually seen some sports books are still hanging a 6.5 out there. Big favorite for Baltimore right now. Once again, I'll follow the pro money, fade the public always. Pro money is coming in on Pittsburgh right now, and I'm hearing some news that George Pickens and TJ Watt could be ready to play for this game. That's obviously going to really be a big deciding factor for this. I mean, you're talking about Pittsburgh's best offensive and best defensive players. I don't think that could be understated if those guys are ready to go or if they're not. I think if they are ready to go, I really like Pittsburgh in the points here. If not, it gets a little more interesting. Now, I don't trust the Ravens to cover. I think they win this game. But to Alex's point, it's just too many points. I don't expect them to win this game by a touchdown or more. That's usually not what happens in these matchups. These games are always close historically, and the Steelers historically have really had Lamar Jackson's number. This is the one team that's really been his kryptonite. He struggles against Pittsburgh, and with that number being that big, I also think that this is a bounce back spot for Pittsburgh. I mean, they had an embarrassing blowout loss to the Eagles. This is the typical rah-rah Mike Tomlin kind of spot here where he gets his guys fired up. He plays the underdog card as well as anybody, and they come in fired up for these types of games. I would be shocked if this one isn't close. I wouldn't be shocked if the Ravens win by any means, but I would be shocked if it wasn't close. So I'll take the Ravens to win. I'll take the Steelers to cover in what could be a close game. And if it comes down to the Ravens kicker, I never thought I'd say this, but they might just end up losing this game.
You're not lying. That's it's funny, but it's actually a valid point. Actually, for all kickers this year, there's a pandemic, an epidemic, some type of ick going around with kickers this year.
Bad case of the yips going on.
Well, and you know what? Outside of the Steelers kicker, who's been almost automatic, Chris Boswell has been the one guy who's really been automatic this year. And considering the Ravens had that guy for so long, I don't know. Yeah, this guy has a case of the yips. It's been crazy. Yeah. Let's jump to this last game here. We've got an NFC East battle. 2 teams that look like they're headed to the playoffs here. Of course, the Eagles with one of the best records in the NFL. The Commanders, the surprising Commanders who have had a really nice season with rookie Jaden Daniels. Kevin, who do you like here in this matchup and why?
Well, you know what? I love what Washington has done. Jalen Daniels, in certain ways, I felt he should have been the number 1 pick. I'm sure Washington's happy that he fell to 2. That team has really come of age, and with a young quarterback, they've really put some stuff together. But Philly, the soap opera that is the Philadelphia Eagles is still, I think, the class of that division. I think Saquon is really stabilized, and every time Saquon has a big game, the people here in New York cringe because they remember that Hard Knocks and all the talking about Saquon doesn't deserve this, Saquon doesn't deserve that, and he's in the MVP conversation. So again, I think last week Hurts and Brown seemed to do kid and play and made nice, and I think obviously it's just a situation where each week with a program like that, you just don't worry about the friendships and the kumbaya and just play football. And I think they'll do that this week. Washington will make the game interesting, but the Eagles will prevail. I think will win by at least 10 points.
Yeah. Hey, Brad, before we close, I have two quick off the kilter picks there. But I am also going to take the Eagles here. I just think the Commanders could be facing a little bit of a collapse here. It's going to be very interesting to watch them the rest of the way. I think the Eagles are rolling, but however, I do expect the Eagles to trip themselves up before they decide to sit everybody. I don't know if it's this game. I think they want to make a statement. They want, and especially within the NFC East. So I'm going to take the Eagles here.
No, wait a second. Are you saying that a team whose offense is led by Cliff Kingsbury could collapse late in the year? That's crazy. I've never even thought that in a second. No, all jokes aside, obviously we know that's been his MO. But with this specific game, look, Eagles 3.5-point favorite, very key number. As we know, getting over a field goal makes this a very interesting play from a betting standpoint. I think this is a low-scoring game. I do, and I really like the under here as well. I think this is going to be a little bit of a fist fight here. This Washington team, anytime we see divisional games like this, usually the second time around, you see a team that's more prepared. And I think Washington's going to be more prepared to play this game versus the Eagles this time around. They really let it get away from them in the second half. It was close, and then a couple key plays, and Philly kind of pulled away the first time they played. But I expect this game to be closer. Now, it opened as a 4.5-point favorite for Philadelphia. That's a pretty big number. That line keeps moving down. And those are the things I tend to follow here is the pro money and where is it going, because the pro money has been on Washington here and pushing that line down. I think they know this should be a close game here. I think this is going to be a lot tighter than people realize, especially these divisional games. They're usually closer than people expect. I like Washington plus 3.5 here. I don't know if they win this game, but I think they find a way to get it close. And like I said, that key number, that half point, I think there's a ton of betting value there.
You know what's interesting about the number dropping? I would expect that number to go up with that injury to Jonathan Allen, who's not going to be playing this game, and then facing Saquon Barkley, who we know they're going to try and get him as close to that record as possible. I thought that would have went up, but I see your point on the money. But hey, Brad, before we get out of here, I have two picks that I'm going with. I think the Bears upset the Lions, and I think the Panthers upset the Cardinals. The Panthers have been playing everybody close. They're at home against the Cardinals, and I know Brad doesn't like the Cardinals per se, well, rather the quarterback that much, but I'm going to take the Cardinals in the 4.5 against Arizona. And the Lions, that injury bug that hit them last week, I think they're going to take a little bit of a step back right here, and I actually think the Bears, with the 6.5 from Detroit, are going to beat the Lions at home in Chicago.
Wow. What do you think of that, Kevin?
Yeah, that Detroit team is really starting to pull water. I'm not going to call them a Titanic, but they are, holding on by, duct tape and string. And obviously, what was it, the other one you picked? What was that game?
I have I've taken the Panthers over the Cardinals. It's incredible.
Well, listen, I'm happy for Bryce Young's, resurgence, but I like Mighty Mouse. I think they've gotten something, and they're doing some nice things in Arizona. I think you like chaos anyway, but I don't think you'll have that one.
hey, Brad, do you like Mighty Mouse?
It was a fun cartoon back in the day. What's funny is that at the end of these podcasts, we like to highlight some of the big games, and then usually Alex will come in with a couple corner TV games that nobody's going to watch, and he's got a couple bets for us, and I love it. I been hot though? Have I been hot? He's been pretty hot, and actually, as a podcast, we've been pretty hot. Knock on wood, because now we're going to miss all these picks. We just jinxed it. So no, I like Carolina +5, that's a weird line. That's a really, really weird line. And I'm with you, Kevin. I really like what I've seen from Bryce Young in the turnaround. It's hard not to root for this guy, right?
Yeah,
He came out #1 pick, really got beat up from fans, the media, and everybody, calling this guy a bust. And I'm pointing the finger at myself here too, because it looked that way. It really looked like this was the wrong pick, especially with what we saw from CJ Stroud last year. I think it really added insult to injury. Correct. It's nice to see him kind of bouncing back and showing like, hey, look, maybe you can still build around this guy. So I'm pulling for it. I think it'd be great to see them get a big win here late. Obviously, they're not in the playoff hunt, but to see some progress from him and this team would be a nice thing for them. So I like that bet. And the Bears right now, gosh, this team, they've got talent. They don't know how to win games. And I think that's really what's killing them right now. You've got a young quarterback who we know has a ton of talent, but he hasn't been able to put it together as far as, a full 4 quarters, right? We see flashes, we see moments, we see throws, and we go, wow, okay. But this team hasn't learned how to win. He hasn't learned how to win. I think the coaching situation is a huge mess. It feels like a bounce back spot for the Lions here too. They just had that big loss to the Bills. I think they're looking to kind of get back on track and hold down. They're fighting for that NFC top spot.
Playing for that division, right?
Yeah, and they're playing for the division. They're playing for the #1 seed. It'd be hard for me to think they're not going to come in laser focused here. Now, 6.5 points, it's a lot of points in any NFL game, regardless who you're playing. So I think there could be some value there. Maybe the Bears find a way to make this game close here, but I'm on the opposite side there. Kevin, any final thoughts here before we wrap this up?
Well, just from a standpoint, obviously, we started with the college football playoff and talked about a couple of key games on NFL weekend. There are obviously 3 games, I think 2 to 3 games Saturday, and I think I'm curious to see how those numbers are going to work. You got obviously the Ravens game is Saturday. I think KC and Houston is Saturday too. Houston, so I'm really interested in seeing how this is going to play out from a TV perspective. Just the media guy in me, because obviously we know the NFL is lower, but it's a lot of intriguing. It'll be a lot of intriguing viewing for the college football playoff new 12-team format. So I'm interested to see Monday how these numbers come out and who's watching what.
And hey, Brad, before we close, just 2 quick notes. We talked about on the audio podcast, Patrick Mahomes is going to start. And also at some point in time later podcast, we'll talk about Michael Penix and what he does in his debut, something that I've been calling for on the podcast. We'll talk about his debut next week.
He's got the right team he's playing. He's got the Giants, so he can't ask for a better setup.
Yeah, look at that, Kev. We got through a whole podcast without talking about the Jets. No problem. Okay.
I don't want to talk about the Jets. I got enough Jet paraphernalia in here. You don't see none of that. I'm wearing an Oregon hat. So, we got plenty of time to talk about them in the offseason. And they will be must-see conversation during the offseason, but not today.
Hey, it's been a great show. And, man, I want to thank you again. Once again, guys, we've been joined by Kevin Pryor, a sports journalist, a co-producer and radio host of the 950 Lounge Show. Be sure to check it out. And, of course, DSN Sports Weekly. Tons of great content come from this guy. And, of course, some great stuff on today's show. Thanks, Kevin, for being a part of it. And, guys, if you like the episode, if you like the show in general, do us a favor. Hit the like button, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content from PGF.
And if I might add, gentlemen, one last thing. It's pretty much almost, it's 99% done, but it hasn't been inked. Coming 2025, look for me in a national publication writing primarily about college football, obviously leading with the NFL draft and some of the stories and players that will be household names on Sundays. But I'm excited for this new venture. It's something that I've always done in my past, and now it's taking it to another level. So can't say exact publication, a very popular one, but you'll know very soon, probably by next week.